Hello, my name is Alan Jensen, and I'd like to talk with you today about a concept in our law known as the spirit of the law. When I was about 6 years old, our country was in the midst of World War II, and my parents at the time thought it would be a good idea for me to start going to Sunday school, so off I went. I liked it very much. I particularly liked the music, and one of my favorites was Onward Christian Soldiers, and I happily sang it until one morning I realized, wait a minute, there's a commandment, I think it was the sixth commandment, that said, thou shalt not kill. And, in view of what was going on in the world at that time, I was very much aware, even at my young age, that when people went off as soldiers, what they were off to do was to kill people. And I was not able to reconcile that. I asked my parents and other adults, and no satisfaction. So time passed, and eventually I went off to law school and then started to practice law and was often in court. And one example of this particular concept coming up was when I was in court defending a charge of failure to have a vehicle insured. Now, I doubt that that case was in the mind of the person who wrote the philosophy about the spirit of the law. That was Baron Montesquieu, and no doubt brought into our understanding by Thomas Jefferson, who learned a lot of things from his reading of the French philosophers. Anyway, his large book had to do with when the law doesn't seem to be functioning well in the particular situation that it's applied to, there ought to be some adjustments made out of consideration for the spirit of the law. The saying that became popular was, we should attend to both the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and if there's any conflict, we need to work at adjusting it and making them come into balance somehow. Anyway, my client with the charge of failure to have his vehicle insured was in a situation that was unusual for such a charge. He and his wife were separated. That particular vehicle was in her possession, and one day she took it out on a snowy day on slippery roads, and it slid off the road into a ditch. The police arrived, and they discovered, among other things, that the vehicle wasn't currently covered by insurance. She realized that she had forgotten to send the premium in, went to court, pled guilty, paid the fine. And you'd think that would be that, but no. The police had also charged my client, the husband, with the same charge. And I talked to the prosecutor about this, and I said, hey, this doesn't make sense. The police charged the wife with failure to keep the vehicle insured. She agreed with that, acknowledged it, came in and pled guilty and paid the fine. So how come you're bothering my guy? He said, oh, no. No, indeed. The statute says people who don't keep their vehicles insured are liable under the law for, fine and costs, whatever. And so we're going to proceed. And I thought, well, okay. Off we went to court, and at the end of the presentation of the prosecution's case, which didn't take long because we already had the information before the court that this vehicle was not insured on that particular day. So I stood up and said, Your Honor, this offense has already been charged and paid for by my client's wife. It seems to me absolutely unfair that he should be charged with the same offense. It seems to me that the purpose of having a law like that is to make sure that the roads are safe for all of us in Nebraska so that we can drive the roads without any risk of encountering somebody who isn't covered with liability insurance. And that has been addressed by the proceedings with my client's wife. It just doesn't make sense to charge him for the same thing unless the state is looking for some additional revenue by having laws like this on the books. I can't imagine that that would be so. And on the basis of this just not making sense and not having any way of passing muster with the test of the spirit of the law, I protest. I don't think it's proper to find my client guilty. And the judge agreed. So that's an example of the application of the spirit of law in a traffic case. Well, traffic and insurance. There's a famous example, well known, I think, about by just about everyone in the country, and that is, yes, it's against the law to kill another person, unless it's done in self-defense. That's another example of application of the principle of the spirit of the law. You ought to be able to defend yourself. There are a number of other examples that I've found over the years that I'd like to share with you, to let you know about, so that we can all realize that there's a lot more flexibility in the law than we might at first think. I look forward to having the opportunity to do that. Thank you.